You're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your new favorite podcast for everything Bills and Sabres.
What's going on, everybody? You are listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast, your favorite podcast for everything Bills and Sabres. We got the pals Jake and Tom here today with episode 16 coming at you. And that's a quick reminder to follow our social medias at Let's Go Buff Pod. That's Buff with 2 F's, and that is on Instagram and X. So let's say hey to, well, the fella Tom. Tom, how we doing today? And do you know where Nigel is? Do you wanna cue us into that?
Pretty sure that Nigel can be seen renouncing his Buffalo fanhood down the I-90 the other day. Just jersey after jersey, Sabre and Bills jersey just flying out his back window. He's giving it up. He's giving it up for Lent at this point. So
I heard about that in the news. I think the authorities eventually brought him to justice, right?
Yeah. They gave him a little fine, a little slap on the wrist, and then he's kind of clothed all the different little animals that are running around this fall, getting ready for hibernation. So you'll hopefully you see it in a big Eagles nest, some little little torn up little Dalton Kincaid jersey just hanging out of an Eagles nest, and that would be Nigel. That's him. Yeah, that's him.
He's doing his part. He's doing his part.
Yeah, we're gonna have to find a new segment for him. I don't know what it's gonna be, but it's gonna have to be like something really boring, like I don't know, stocks or something. Like I don't know, like like he's gonna still be back on the pod, but I don't know if he's gonna want to talk anything Buffalo.
We'll see.
This week's gone.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we'll get into that, buddy.
For everybody.
We'll toss it around. We'll talk about the Bills' missteps. We'll talk about the Sabres' missteps. But first, man, I think we have something important to do to prime this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's crack him in 3, 2, 1.
I have a bottle today, so I was not participating in the, but I hope everybody heard that at home.
The sound's still there.
What are you drinking today, bud?
So in light of the disgusting plays that we saw on the field and on the ice, I grabbed what arguably, in my opinion, is the grossest beer in my beer fridge that's been sitting there for some time because I haven't wanted to crack it open. I'm not going to name the brewery because that's not what we're about, but it's a coconut lime sour ale.
Oh!
Look, there's people out there that might like that. I don't like coconut in anything, and to put it in beer is a reprehensible sin. It came in a pack that I just like.
Okay. I was about to ask, there, did you do this to yourself? Like, I know you're a little bit of a masochist sometimes for just like trying new things, but I would be impressed if that's like you spent money on that actively.
It's true. No, I may have spent money on it actually, if I'm being honest, but I didn't know what I was doing.
Coconut lime, you said?
Coconut lime.
Okay.
But I do want to say I do have a second backup, which is just a regular old Labatt Blue to prime me for the Bills game that we're going to on Sunday against the Jets. So
at this point, we're on like vacation, so it's just a steady drip of blue light. All of our state trooper friends, please don't listen in now.
Listen in. Come and arrest me, you cowards.
Come and get me. You'll find me between exit 31 and 35.
Anyways, bro, what are you drinking?
I have an old favorite. I actually saw this on the rack the other day, and I haven't had this in forever. I got a Dogfish Head, the 60-minute IPA.
Oh, they brew great beer, man. They're a great brewery. Good.
This was like the first IPA that I was told, like, Tom, if you want an IPA, like the Dogfish 60-minute, like that's a good IPA, and you'll like it. And I did. It's really good.
It's fantastic. Do you know what the 60-minute refers to?
How long the hops were something. The hops were steeping. The hops were told little stories. What is it?
It's the boil. Yeah, you're right on. It's the boil time.
Oh, all right, good. Yeah. Now they sit there with a little timer, and just like erase it.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I mean, they're definitely timing it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. That's cool. Enough. That's enough banter. Let's get depressed. Let's talk about the Broncos game.
But we're good at banter. That's more fun than this. This isn't fun. The Bills fell to the Broncos last Monday night in just a beautiful Billsy fashion, 24-22.
What more could have gone wrong?
Dude, I don't know. I honestly don't. I've kind of blacked out and blocked it out. It's been a long week anyway, and thankfully it's kind of been able to separate myself from it. But man, like that was it was the most Billsy game we've seen. It felt like a drought era. It felt like it was 2012, and man, we're in the thick of it, and dropping a game to a team that we absolutely should have won at home for silly reasons, and not even like they played that much better. The Broncos tried to lose as much as the Bills did, right?
Yeah.
Like,
just mistake after mistake after mistake, and just couldn't put good things together. Again, they did put a good drive together towards the end of the game when they needed to.
Yep.
Took the lead. Took the lead for the first time all night.
Yep. 22-15. And just didn't 22-15. I can't remember the score. Like I said, I blocked this out.
I think it was 22-20.
22-20. So they went up. That's
kicked
true.
the field goal to 22-21. Excuse me.
22-21.
To win to 24.
Yeah. This is great reporting we're doing here.
We're buzzing around today. That's for sure.
And it was that ugly. We took 2 timeouts, and we, for whatever reason, they NASCAR'd their way, get their field goal unit onto the field, and we ended up with an extra 12th man. They kicked the ball, they kicked a field goal, and they missed. We would have won. We would have snuck away, stolen a win that we didn't deserve, but won anyway, which is fine. That happens all the time. And no, we had 12. We had 12 guys out after a timeout.
And not to mention that's what good teams do. Find a way to win even if things aren't going your way. Yeah. And not to snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory.
Yeah. So, and it was just an ugly game all around. Started off with that fumble by James Cook on the first reception of the game of the Bills' first possession. Like
play one.
And then, honestly, I don't even know what's more reprehensible, but then Sean McDermott benching the kid, one of our best running backs and most athletic and explosive offensive weapons, benching him for 16 plays.
Yeah. He looked pissed off when he came back in.
He did. But did he learn his lesson? Did we teach him something? That's in my mind, it's such a backward, it's such an old school, you messed up, sit on the bench.
Yeah.
What are we doing? What are we doing? We need every hope we can get. And James Cook is a hope. James Cook is a spark, and he can get us something. So I don't know. That was stupid. But you're right. He came back, and man, he had a chip on his shoulder. So much so that he continued to fumble the ball.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it was good that he was benched that long. It's probably he came back and performed well in spite of being benched for his mistake,
Yeah. Man, he's so I don't know. And then I don't know anybody who saw that, but his little dribble around the green there later in the game where he fumbled again, right? But it fumbled and they caught it right back in his hands.
Yeah. The one time this year that a bounce has gone our way, kind of thing.
Are you kidding? Yeah. Josh Allen threw another ugly interception, just left and right. Our poor defense, man. I'm gonna tell you right now, they are playing for what the injuries that they have sustained. They are playing out of their minds and deserve every flower, everything we can give them. They are putting our team in an opportunity to win.
Yeah, you can't ask them to do any more than they're doing.
You can't.
The offense, the healthy offense. Is there anyone that's injured right now on the offense?
Dawson Knox is on IR, right? Dawson Knox is dealing with that wrist injury, so he's out. But we have Dalton Kincaid, who's looking like a stud. Yeah. I think the Dawson Knox injury on IR is affecting the run game more than the passing game. Because I think we're not giving him his blocking credit that we should. I think he's a much better blocker than maybe people realize. And honestly, better than Dalton Kincaid is. Kincaid may eventually become a good blocker, but that's not his strength. Dawson Knox is a good blocking tight end in the NFL.
Is that specific to those players and their games, or is that something that takes a year or two in the NFL to kind of establish being a good run blocker?
Both, right? So it depends on your size. It depends on your athleticism and your experience. But it also depends on your training, right? Did you participate in a college offense that asked you to block quite a bit? Oftentimes not, right? Oftentimes tight ends are not used in that way. So that's like it's a big deal when they are, and they come in with experience. And when when tight ends enter the NFL, they're learning two positions. They're learning the wide receiver part of their game, and they have to learn how to be an offensive lineman. Both are incredibly difficult things to do, and they were asking these young kids to do both, which is why most of the time tight ends come in and develop slowly. You don't usually see a rookie tight end come in and play a huge role and splash. It's just helped that Dalton Kincaid has this amazing athletic and wide receiver skill set that is helping him become a very impactful part of this offense early. But learning to block and learning those schemes and learning that rhythm, it takes time, and it will, hopefully he'll get better at that too. But anyway, I don't think we hit this hammer too far in the head, because we're maybe is that the episode name? I think that's the episode name right there.
I think that might be the episode name, Tom.
I don't even know where that was going. Yikes. What was I saying? Oh,
bring it back. Bring it home.
We're gonna land this ship. That it's Friday, and the game happened Monday. A lot has happened since then, particularly the firing of Ken Dorsey. Offensive coordinator Ken Dorsey was released of his duties. I think it was as early as Tuesday, right? I think it was like pretty quickly the next morning. A press release was announced, and Ken Dorsey was relieved of his duties, and Joe Brady, the quarterbacks coach, was promoted to interim offensive coordinator. So,
yeah, how are we feeling about it?
I up and down, right? I think at some point the blame goes a lot of places, right? There's no one person to blame here. You have to blame Ken Dorsey, because you have to blame Josh Allen. You have to blame the rest of the offense and the rest of these veterans on this offense for just not having the juice and the spark and figuring this out. You have to blame Sean McDermott, right? This is still his operation. He is still implicit or complicit in this in the mishaps that have happened over the last 6 weeks. But at some point, something has to change, right? Something has to change. And I have a couple theories here. First of all, I think everybody upset that, it should be Sean McDermott. They had 11 men on the field and they missed that field goal and we won anyway. Would Ken Dorsey be fired? Like, yeah, maybe. I don't know. He's still been falling apart. But at some point, Sean McDermott can't fire himself, right? Like, he can't. But he can fire Ken Dorsey. He can't. That is a move that can be made. The decision to get rid of McDermott is going to be a Tara Bigula decision, right? Like that's an ownership opportunity there, decision. So we can't put that on Sean McDermott. Maybe he should be fired, but I think that's a separate conversation than, should Ken Dorsey been fired or Sean McDermott? Like, that's not McDermott's call.
Regardless, this puts McDermott on the hot seat, right? Like, this is kind of his opportunity to say, look, this wasn't going well. Let's correct this. And if it doesn't, then the hammer might fall on him next, no?
Yeah, right. Watch out for that hammer and hitting things. I think that definitely is a shot across the bow. I also think it's a shot across the bow to Josh Allen. Like, this, Ken Dorsey was his handpicked, his boy, his handpicked offensive coordinator. And like, this is their way of saying, look, dude, you're right. You are a top 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterback in this league. But man, you cannot continue to play the way that you have. But we're not going to bench you, right? You don't bench Josh Allen. You don't, right? You can't.
No,
and especially when all we have is Kyle Allen behind him, and it's not a huge injury thing. You can't bench him. But I think this is the teams and organization's way of saying, dude, like, this has to change. Hopefully it is. Hopefully it's a spark. I think going forward, and I'm honestly really excited, Jake and I are going to be going to this game along with a bunch of buddies and a bunch of friends and family, and it's going to be awesome. Hopefully we might walk in and maybe this breathes some new life, right? Maybe oftentimes teams do get kind of a little bit of a bump from firing of a coach. There's a little bit of right? This is a return on the page. There's a new energy. Hopefully we see it. We'll talk about it kind of against the matchup. It's going to be a tough matchup for that to be happening, but I'm hoping that this opens up some doors here.
Yeah, in general. So he's been he was a coordinator somewhere else, Joe Brady, I think. So there's some history From what you know about him, is there anything that you're expecting or hoping to see that he does with the pieces that he has here in Buffalo?
So I think the big thing that people need to pump their brakes on is we're not going to see a whole new offense, right? For him to install a completely different offense would take an offseason, right? That it would take a whole OTAs, preseason, mini camp, training camp, all of that. So we're not going to see a completely new offense. However, I'm hoping we see the tweaks that we do need. It's been said multiple times this week in a bunch of different places that the Bills offense is one of the easiest offenses to plan for because it's simple. And it puts a lot of emphasis on the wide receivers and the quarterback to make the correct decision, as opposed to giving them easy, quick completions and easy, quick decisions and taking that out of their hands. This offense requires everybody to be firing it on the same page at the same time, every single time. So what I'm hoping is there is a way that we can dress things up. So maybe that's more pre-snap motion that is actually meaningful and gets Josh information, moves the defense and muddies things up for them. So that way these our plays are more effective. I'm hoping that it means that that Joe Brady emphasizes. One of my big problems with Ken Dorsey's offense was that it was trying to beat everything all the time. They were trying to beat man coverage. Many of those plays had man beaters. So there's a single route that would be good against man coverage, where a defender is playing right up on one offensive skill player and is staying right with them. Then there's another route in that same exact play that is a zone beater, that is trying to when a player plays a little bit more off and they're passing, a player has an area of the defense that they need to defend, and then the offensive players travel through those areas that are being covered. Then there's a beater for that, right? So I'm hoping that Joe Brady simplifies that, and instead of trying to beat everything all the time, makes it a little bit more directional. Makes plays that are designed to get the ball into James Cook's hands, into Dalton Kincaid's, into Stephon Diggs' hands, and to making them easy decisions, get things rolling, and put less of an emphasis on everybody having to be on the same page all the time.
Yeah, it's a great point, dude. So one of the criticisms against Ken Dorsey's offense was execution, right? I mean, dropped balls, failed passes, that kind of thing. Obviously, that's not the coordinator's fault. He's not out there grabbing the ball. But when they keep stacking up like that, do you think that is a systemic issue? And like how does Joe Brady come in and say, "Hey, Gabe, like put your fucking hands around the ball and catch it," you know?
Right? You're right. Like it's at some point, like it's the coordinator can call the plays and the players have to execute. But I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think you hit the hammer on the nail where the player, like the coordinator, at some point, if it's one game of that, yeah, that's on the players. If it's 2 games on that, man, guys, you're in a slump. Figure it out. If it's 6 games of that, something's different, right? Like that's gotta be leadership and how things are emphasized in practice or things like that. I've seen a few of the Bills beat writers and other Bills podcasters and things have been talking this week, and some notes about Joe Brady from his time and when he was an offensive coordinator in Carolina. He definitely emphasizes ball security. That was a big emphasis from some beat writers from Carolina who studied them and watched were following that team when he was the offensive coordinator. So, excuse me. I'm hoping that this week that he's kind of instilling that, and hopefully there's a new juice, some new energy. Like I hope that something changes where this offense can put a new emphasis on ball security, making the plays when they need to happen. So yeah, man, I who knows? And or who knows? Maybe they come out and they're making the same problems, and we're just this is what this year is. You don't know. You really don't until we see it.
Yeah, they got a tough matchup to do that against this week against the Jets. I mean, it's a defense that has given the Bills fits over the past couple of years, and there's some talent on that defensive side.
Oh, dude, yeah, it's gonna be talk about a test for a new offensive coordinator to go in on a short week, right? Monday to Sunday game, and you got to go play against the Jets, dude. I don't know. I don't envy that, but thankfully, hopefully he's paid to do that. So
Well, at least they're at
um
home, and I don't think you're considering the fact that they'll have the Let's Go Buffalo podcast bump from us being in the stands.
oh
So
dude, I
just
know,
just
right?
saying,
Yeah,
just
hey, they're
saying.
gonna get a little juice, What
But
so what if I'm curious, what if the Bills come out and we're in the stands, we're having a great time, and man, they light it up. Josh Allen has a Josh Allen game. Diggs goes for more than 100 yards. We're rushing really well. Everybody's involved, and they come out and look good. Do you feel, does that completely change your opinion of this team, or does it not?
That's a good question because they've had games where they've done that, right? Like,
Mhm.
so it's not like that's out of the realm of possibility. I think it would give me hope, but I don't think it would, hit the hammer on the head if we can continue going back to that well. I don't think it will really drive the point home until I see that with some consistency and some rhythm, and where it's not a game here and a game here. I want to see that drive in and drive out, and just feel a little bit more confidence and rhythm from the offense.
A new identity. That's where I'm at. I'm right with you. Like I need to see them have a renewed sense of identity and back to the offense that they know they can be. Um, and one game isn't going to change your identity.
Yeah, 100%, dude. I
One,
agree.
two, three, four, 5 games of good offensive productivity and staying in games and looking effective, not making silly mistakes. That will reinstill my confidence, but it's going to take some time.
Yeah, 100%. Well, and the if this team goes anywhere this year, it's because of the offense. Like, the defense is so banged up. They're playing well despite it. If the team's going to succeed, it's got to live and die through that offense. So if they can get their heads out of their ass and outscore some of their issues. I hesitated there because we had a conversation last week about how they're being efficient. They're one of the better offenses at getting first downs, red zone efficiency, things like that. But it's clearly not translating to the scoreboard all the time. So situationally effective, situationally consistent, and when they're not waiting till their backs up against the wall, go out and take care of business when you need to. Don't wait until you're down by a score or 2 scores.
Don't wait for the invitation, right? Just
Exactly.
go do it. Just go freaking
Exactly.
do it. So yeah, dude. I mean, I'm hopeful. I'm also hesitant because man, this at some point this Bills team has told us who they are. They told us that they're a sloppy, inefficient team. Well, scarily, weirdly efficient, but not efficient team, and who make mistakes at the wrong time and drop games that they shouldn't, and go. But I mean, it's still the gig is not up, right? Like we have still time. Things can change, and they just need to happen. But dude, I don't know. I will
Yeah.
have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. What are your thoughts on scores this weekend?
Score
Bills
predictions
Jets.
for the Jets game?
Yeah.
Oh,
What are you
dude.
thinking?
I like the Jets defense has been so good against Buffalo. I am hesitant to even if there is a bump and the Bills offense looks great, I don't know if I'd go higher than I think the Bills score somewhere in the 20s even if the offense looks great, kind of thing. So I think, but I also think they have a pretty stoppable offense as well. Zach Wilson is not a game-changing quarterback most weeks, so I think I'd go a fairly low scoring game. I think they do get a little bit of a bump. They're I think they're probably pissed off about the way the Broncos game, the taste that left in their mouth. So I would predict them to win. Also, because I want to see a win if we're going to the game, I'll predict them to win 26-18.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna be right about there at the same. I think I'm gonna give 2 just because I wanna. My realistic one is in that same range. I think it's gonna be 24-17 is my guess. 24-17 Bills. But man, I'm gonna give a little homer one. I do think there's a possibility that things click and the boys come out humming, and it's like 42-10.
Yeah.
like there's an option, right? That's out there. That is a possibility, and that would be sweet to see. So I'm gonna put my little caveat. I'm gonna take Nigel's spot because he's not here, and we're gonna say that Nigel picked them to win 42-10.
I like it. I like it. So going back to it, because it is news of the week, but I feel like you see teams where things aren't going well, they fire a coordinator, and then the team explodes. But I feel like that's usually the case when the team isn't jiving with the offensive coordinator. And what I'm getting at here is, like you said, Ken Dorsey was handpicked by Josh Allen. Does that change your opinion of that at all? Like is this guy bummed out because his buddy is no longer talking in his ear?
Could be. Thankfully, it's Joe Brady, who was his quarterback's coach. He also has a very good relationship with. And some quotes from Josh Allen this week. I don't have him in front of me, but he definitely said, "Hey man, like look, I'm upset and I'm sad to see Dorsey go, but if this one we wouldn't be here if we could have the offense could have operated better." So I think he's definitely understood that this is not this is a big deal. This is not an okay thing. And hopefully they're moving forward. They're ready for a new page. I'm excited to see.
Yeah,
it is cool, right? So Joe Brady came out and did his interview, his first interview as offensive coordinator, wearing a Buffalo versus everybody hoodie. So that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Let's go, buddy. That's
yeah,
right. Like that's of the people.
Exactly. We love to see that.
Yeah. So, and this one last thought before we hop in over to Sabres, because I'm actually really curious. I have, there's a lot going on in the Sabres world too, and I'm really interested to hear your thoughts of where we're at there. I just want to go out and say, man, Stephon Diggs has come out and time again, proven to be like one of my favorite Bills ever. This guy, he's putting it up on the field, right? He is an absolute stud. He has changed Josh Allen. He has changed this offense. He has changed offensive output in Buffalo. And but he's kind of been put on blast a lot over the last 12, 16 months, right? And maybe a little bit deservedly, but I think it's been overblown. He clearly was upset at the end of the Bengals loss in the playoffs last year. But to be honest with you, I'm okay with that. Like, let's get the boys needed to be upset. But after this loss to the Bengals, there was a whole bunch of conversation. Stephon Diggs' brother Trayvon was tweeting about 14's got to get out there, and all this other stuff, and people kind of took that and ran, and oh my gosh, Diggs is going to be a diva and he's going to be a problem, and it came up in his press conference this week, and Diggs was just so even keeled. He was not confrontational. He was not upset. Well, he was upset. He was upset because he felt that he was being misrepresented. And he was right. He came out and had just a very, I don't know, like very wise press conference responses talking about, hey man, like all this is being said, but what have you seen me do to prove that, to live up to that? He's like, I'm here every day. I'm working. All my teammates know that I'm here to work. All my coaches know that I'm here to work. Everybody who needs to know that I'm here to work is knowing that I'm here to work.
Yeah,
you guys are making this up. Like this is a media little trail that is being fed and just being spun and woven, and the poor guy's just been on the shit end of that stick. And it was cool to see him come out and keep a very even keel and respond, and honestly, a very admirable way, excuse me.
yeah.
And it was cool. It was like, man, this guy, he's right around our age. It's cool to see a guy be very mature, who we can root for and feel good about being in Buffalo.
Yeah, God knows we're not. So thank God he is. So I don't have any proof or basis for this, but if you'll allow me to put my tinfoil hat on for a moment.
Yep.
A lot of the negativity and frustration that seemed to come from Stephon Diggs, like you said, was like 12, 16 months ago, which was in and around Ken Dorsey's first season as the offensive coordinator. He comes out now after some horrific games that the Bills should have won or could have won, whatever you want to say, and now is even keeled and seems excited about the prospect of moving forward.
Could be, dude.
Do you read into anything there?
Could be. I didn't even think about that. Honestly, maybe he didn't jive as much as Josh did with Ken Dorsey, and he didn't think that the decisions were being made, and those are the routes he was being asked to run. Like maybe he knew that, or he had a better idea of, hey man, like I think there's a different way to do this. Maybe, could be.
Who knows? I don't know. I'm
I hope so.
spitballing.
Now I want, because hey man, let's go see a 200-yard Diggs game on
Yeah,
Sunday, right?
absolutely. We'll see. We'll
Who
see,
knows?
dude. I hope our excitement comes to fruition on Sunday. We'll see. We'll
Yeah,
see.
that'd be really fun, wouldn't it? That'd be so cool.
It would.
That'd be
And
super fun.
absolutely a must-win game for playoffs. Like you got to win this one, put it
Yes.
away to even
Yeah.
like keep pace in the playoff race.
And we gotta. This is because this is a divisional game. It's a home game. This is a big deal. There's been a lot of injuries, right? The teams that are ahead of us. Poor Joe Burrow is done. Joe Burrow's done for the year, right?
Yeah.
So the Bengals are ahead of us. The Texans are ahead of us. The Steelers are ahead of us. There's a lot of teams here that the Raiders are ahead of us. Like there's some teams here that I think that we absolutely need to outperform, and we have a chance, right? The door is not closed.
No, yeah. I mean, the rest of the rest of the season starts today. Fuck what's happened before. You pull your bootstraps up and go win some games the rest of the year. Who knows what happens? That's the
I don't know. Well, but what's happened with the Sabres? Where we at now?
Let me finish my beer before I get into that.
Yeah, look at this record. Doesn't look all that great.
So, Tom, since last we talked, there's been 3 games. They won against Minnesota 3-2 on Friday night. Then they go on the road to Pittsburgh Saturday night and get shut out 4-0 against the Penguins. And then finally on Tuesday, the one that was the most heartbreaking to me, it was Kyle Okposo, our captain. It was his 1,000th game in the NHL, so that's a huge honor. That's a big milestone. Not a lot of players get to that mark. And Buffalo came out and just did the equivalent of taking a shit on center ice and then going into the locker room.
Nice.
They lost 5-2 against a division rival, Boston, and it was an ugly game. Yeah. So with that said, the win against Minnesota, love to see it. Tack it up as a win. The loss against Pittsburgh on the road, willing to forgive it. Pittsburgh's a good team. They started the season off not so great, but they've changed the way they play a bit as the season's gone on, adjusting the forechecking pressure that they send and playing a bit more reserved, but then counterattacking a bit more effectively. And that's been noticeable and helps them because they're the oldest team in the league. Their stars are aging. So, that game, whatever, chalk it up as a loss, move on from it. The game Tuesday night was much more heartbreaking. Like I said, a milestone game for their captain, and they just came out flat and got outclassed by Boston. It was an ugly game all the way around. I watched it. I had to turn it off at a certain point, if I'm being honest, because it was hard to watch. Your number one center, Tage Thompson, goes down with injury during that game, so he'll be out for the next month to 2 months, from what I understand. Took a slap shot off the wrist.
Salt in the wound, right? Like just
salt in the wound.
Yeah.
So just a piss poor game. So that's 2 in a row that were, tough to get through watching it. And that's just not the identity that I'm hoping to see from the team. That's not the identity that we saw through much of last year. Last year it was, they always had a chance. They could always get back in the game. And I'm not seeing that right now. I'm seeing they go down by 2-3 goals. And it's kind of reminding me of the 4 or 5 years ago where they go down by 2 goals. You might as well turn the game off. It's over. So I need to see some fight back from this team. Like they're not really clawing back into games like they should be able to and can. And that's troubling. Yeah.
Is it something that have you seen them do that earlier this season? Or has it been, okay, since the beginning of the season, this is, you have it, they've either taken the lead and held it or they're just out of the game. Has that been something systemic throughout the season?
I think it's been indicative of the rest of the season for the most part. I can't really remember often games where they've kind of clawed back into, maybe 1 or 2 here or there that I'm forgetting, but it's kind of been, it's either they've been on or they've been off. There's not really there hasn't been a lot of pushback in games, and
Yeah.
there's been some of the losses that they have been ugly. Scoreboard or not, they've just not looked
Not
good
looked good. Yeah.
doing it.
Ugh. The quality of a win or a loss is definitely a big deal, right? How do they look doing it is changes things for any kind of team, any sport. So
Yeah, absolutely. And over those last 3 games, they scored a total of four goals. Uh, you're not winning games doing that. So the team offense in general has been sputtering. They started off the year uh, producing goals kind of in spite of the quantity of chances that they get, and that's cooled off a bit. Their shooting percentage has been down. They haven't been getting as many finishing shots, and so that's led to losses in the record book. So that's a conversation for another day. We'll deep dive into the cost to the offense that improving the defensive game has resulted
right,
in.
because you're giving up something, right? You're giving up different. Yeah,
Absolutely, they're playing differently. They're playing more reserved. They're playing back more, and that's good. It's been helping them improve their goals against and their team defense, but at what cost to the offense? Because it's
yeah,
clearly not. It's
yeah.
clearly neutered the offense too
Is
much.
that a personnel change? Like we have a different group of players, or is it a schematic coaching change?
No, yeah, schematic coaching change. I would say
Okay.
we brought back every forward that played for the team last year and added in Zach Benson. That's
Yeah.
so I should say Jack Quinn is out with injury since the offseason. So, but he's not the one to driving our entire offense.
He's not the keystone there. Yeah.
He's not. No. So, yeah, no, it's not personnel. It's
Huh.
schematic, and I there has been injuries for sure. Not to discount that, but it's schematic. Yeah, it's the way they're playing, and it's not leading to as many goals, and that's an issue. Yeah, they got to figure out a way to fix that.
Okay.
But well, speaking of personnel, I did want to touch on Patrick Kane.
Oh, Patty Kane. Yeah.
Old
Is he
Patty
is he
Kane.
is he gonna get signs? Like, what do you think? Is that something? So, from what I know about him, right, he's an older player. He's been rather successful, but he's coming off this injury, right? This hip injury. That's a big deal. And is he a player? Even if he comes in, could he play and be effective, or is his locker room presence like is that a big deal too? Could his locker room presence as a leader come and make a difference for this young Buffalo team?
That's the golden question there. So he has begun meeting with teams. For anyone that doesn't know, he had off-season hip surgery. His hip bone was like shaved down or something like that. So just a little off the top kind of surgery.
Yeah, just a little bit. Yikes, that sounds terrible.
Well, it is terrible. Not players don't typically come back and perform to the same standard when they come
from
back
hip
from
shaving.
That.
Yeah,
Hip
I wouldn't
shaving.
either. Yeah.
So he's meeting with teams currently to figure out where he wants to sign and what his deal will look like. And
Right.
Buffalo's been rumored to be in that mix. He's a hometown kid. He grew up in Buffalo. So you have to think that there's some sway there. And I guess I'm open to it and would be excited for him to sign in Buffalo, but with some major, major caveats and reservations. So let me dive into those. Number one, the contract and term and money has to be acceptable. I don't want to sign Patrick Kane for 4 years. I would like to sign him for 1 or 2 years. I don't think he should be getting more than $5 million a year at this point in his career.
Okay.
So if those two things are true and he signs in Buffalo for a contract that fits that, I would be excited. But again, with some caveats. Number one, I would want this decision to come from Kevin Adams and Kevin Adams alone. In the past, Terry Pagula, our overlord, has been rumored to either been rumored to or been explicitly involved in conversations regarding player personnel. And that man
Terry,
should not be involved in that. Yeah,
what
that's
are we
the problem.
doing?
He's an owner that's a fan, and so like I get it. If I owned an NHL team, I'd probably want to sit in the room and like hear the
You'd
conversations.
be on everything. You would be involved with everywhere.
Absolutely. But I do not want Terry to look at Patrick Kane and say, "Oh, Patrick Kane was really good for the Blackhawks 10 years ago. We should sign him." Because that's not going to get the team anywhere. He's not the same player that was on those Blackhawks teams.
But Terry, come on.
So that's my other caveat. The decision should be a hockey decision from Kevyn Adams and Kevyn Adams alone. Kevyn Adams has proven to me over the past couple of years that he is willing to make the team better and won't sign players just for the sake of signing players, especially if that boxes out young talent. And there is a lot of young talent in the AHL. However, he will pull the trigger and sign somebody if it makes the team legitimately better and decides that, you know, the players in Rochester need some more seasoning and wouldn't be a better addition than Patrick Kane, right? So if that is also true, then I'm still excited. So again, we're knocking down the caveats to get to the excitement level. The third one, is Patrick Kane still able to play like a semblance of his former self with that surgery? No one will know the answer to that until he signs and starts playing games. But it's a tough surgery to come back from. And I think that, he didn't look phenomenal with the Rangers during the playoffs last year. So I think he has something to prove himself too. Like, can he come back from that surgery? So
and be effective and be a big part of a team. Yeah.
That's my final caveat. If those three things fall into place, good contract, hockey decision from the GM, and looks okay after coming off surgery, I would be excited for him to join Buffalo. If any of those things are not true, then I'm out. See ya. Have fun with a different team.
Yeah, playing out is riding out to the pasture somewhere else. Yeah. So I had a thought. I had a good question. Jake, it was a great question. I'll come back to it. But yeah, man, I think I lost it. It's gone.
That's okay. Raise your hand if you think of it.
Oh, yeah.
But so let's say he does sign in Buffalo. I think he's not a good defensive player, and I think that would hurt the team. But we'll see. Tom, you remembered it. I
remember. So there's got to be an opportunity cost to signing him too, because if we sign him to the active roster, who's going off the active roster?
It's a good question. Currently, probably no one. There with the Tage Thompson injury, I think he'll be out for the next month or two. Quinn is still out. I think when healthy, the conversation becomes more real of who gets shipped out.
Yep.
So I think right now, if they signed him, I don't think there would need to be any major roster moves.
Okay, so there's room. There could be room because you're right, because Tage is going to IR.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think there's room, but yeah, go ahead.
A follow-up question about Tage going to IR. What are the rules in the NHL? In the NFL, if they go to IR, right, then they have it's a minimum of 4 weeks, and then they can come back. They have to be activated, and if they don't come back from that window, then they're shut down for the year. Is there something similar in the NHL, or is it different?
Similar-ish, yeah. IR. So there's IR, and then there's LTIR, long-term IR.
Okay.
I won't get into that one as much, but for IR, you must sit out for either 1 week or 3 games, I believe is the rule. It's whichever's first. I think it's a week. I think it's short. A week.
That's like you're recovering from a stinger, like
or
a pulled hamstring or something.
Yeah, it is short, but it's meant to just give a little bit more flexibility.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And then long-term IR, I'd have to look up the rules for that one, but it's for players that are kind of out for the year. LTIR contracts don't count against the cap. That's one big difference.
Okay.
And so it gives you more flexibility in that way.
Yep.
And I believe with LTIR, they have to be out for around a month minimum. So he might go on that. But
okay.
In either case, yeah, there's room to add another player. If they don't sign Patrick Kane, someone else is coming up from Rochester. But Rochester, their AHL team, is also pretty banged up at the moment. So injuries are going around, man. To get back to your question, if everyone was healthy and they signed Patrick Kane, I think that would likely put the nail in the coffin for Victor Olofsson. I think they would try to find a different place for him to land. I'm pretty over that guy, if I'm being honest with you.
Yeah.
Plays die on his stick. He doesn't contribute a whole lot in special teams. He's been invisible on the power play this year, which is supposed to be his bread and butter. That's his shot is the one good part about his game. And the goals that he does score are just I said this about him last year. His goals that he scores are meaningless. He scored 2 goals in the Boston game. Great game, you might think, but no, they lost 5-2. And those goals came at a point in the game where the game was over.
Yeah.
They were just nothing goals, nothing at all. But he gets 2 points, 2 goals in the goal column. And so apologists for Victor Olofsson are like, oh, well, look, he scored 20 goals last year. But yeah, okay, 5 of them were empty netters. Another 6 were like garbage time goals. He's not that good.
Yeah.
He's not that good of a player.
Yeah.
Again, good problem to have if Victor Olofsson is your biggest gripe in the forward department. But still, I think there's better talent out there than Victor Olofsson.
Okay. Yeah, dude. Anything else you want to touch on with Sabres-wise, or we got you all too worked up in a froth here?
I guess the other thing we should say is they sent Matt Savoy back down to juniors. He played our boy Savoy. Yeah, he played his first NHL game ever on Friday night against Minnesota. He played about 3 minutes of the game, and then they shipped his ass back to juniors. So
wow, that was quick.
Not a great debut for him. I unfortunately wasn't able to watch that game, so I didn't really get to see much of him. And if I did watch the game, I wouldn't have been able to see much of him either.
Right? Yeah, it wasn't much to see.
Clearly, they felt he wasn't ready. They get him a game in the NHL to get his feet wet, I guess.
Is a game enough to see? Or maybe because they also see him in practice, so they're kind of new. Is that? I mean, they see other things too.
I think when I said that, I meant more for him to see, not so much for the Sabres to see him. Okay. Right? So to get him involved, let him kind of be on the bench, see the speed of the game up close, get a little bit of game experience, and say, all right, Matt, go back to juniors, work on your game more. The frustrating part, and we've talked about this, is that I don't think he has a whole lot left to work on his game in the junior league. He needs to be in the AHL. He looked great in the AHL. It's a damn shame that we can't have him in the AHL. So it's a bit of a lost development year for him, in my opinion. I'm hoping he goes and plays at World Juniors and can go back to Rochester during playoffs. But we'll see. It's tough for him that he's in that position, but that's just the way the rules are.
Okay. How the cookie crumbles.
But no, I think that's kind of all I wanted to hit on Buffalo. They've got some winnable games coming up, and they really need to put some of those ugly games behind them and get back into the win column.
Start stacking some wins.
Yeah, that starts tonight. They're on the road for the next couple of games, which is tougher for sure. I mean, playing on the road is tougher. They're in Winnipeg this evening, Friday, November 17th. They're on the road in Chicago on Sunday, November 19th, and then they're on the road against Washington next Wednesday.
Okay.
So some winnable games in there, but
which ones do you think are winnable?
All of them.
Okay.
Winnipeg has one of the best goalies in the NHL. They play a structured game. They've been on a little bit of a tear recently, so that's a tough game. Okay. But if you can beat Hellebuck, you can win against Winnipeg.
Yep.
Chicago is a team that's being dragged into relevance by Connor Bedard, who is the next Connor McDavid, the next Sidney Crosby. That's how he's been heralded, and he's looked every bit the part so far in this young season. Okay. He's like the playmaker that Crosby is, with the shot of Austin Matthews, which I don't know if that means much to you, Tom, but that's pretty fucking good.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
So, I mean, they've been kind of a sneaky team. They've been able to stay a little bit relevant because of him. And then finally in Washington, you're up against a team without Nick Backstrom, with a Ovechkin using a walker on the ice kind of thing. Like that's a game you should win. You should be able to find a way to beat Washington at this point in their cycle. Yeah. You got to come away with 2 of these wins in the next 3 games at minimum to give me hope.
Okay.
But yeah, and after that, they've got a rematch against Pittsburgh after Thanksgiving. So we'll see if they're able to claw back from any of those. But
all right, dude. Well, I'm gonna say that they go 2-1. I'm gonna get your 2 games. I'm gonna be optimistic that they go 2-1 in that stretch.
I like it. I'm feeling less optimistic. I'm gonna say 1-1-1, but We'll see.
One for everybody.
Just one for everybody. Yeah. We'll see, but that playoff line's coming, so they got to step it up.
Shit. Yeah, dude. All right, bud. Well, hey. Well, I'm going to get to see you. I'm going to see you on Sunday, so that's cool.
I can't wait, dude.
We're going to go rough and tumble up in those tailgate lots. It's always a good time. We're going to we always when we go, we get there in time for breakfast, spend some time, do lunch. 4:25 game will be fun. We usually do 1:00 games, so we had some time on our hands. We get a couple extra rounds of cornhole in.
Absolutely. Come see us in section 330 if you want a sticker.
Oh, yeah. Come get a sticker. That'd be sweet. I want one of those shiny stickers. I got did I ever give you one of the plain flat ones?
No, but I want one too.
One's coming your way. All right, I'll make sure I pack one. Well, anyway,
we'll do
guys,
a little gift swap.
Yeah, I like that. All right, now everybody needs to hear our packing list. So let's get rolling. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We appreciate you. You know, we're just two goofs and one goof who's lost in Buffalo fandom. And we appreciate you all from the bottom of our hearts for spending some time with us. It does mean a lot. So please make sure to share this podcast anywhere with your friends, your coworkers, your dog, your cat. Next week's Thanksgiving. Play it at Thanksgiving while you're cooking. Enjoy the Macy's Day Parade with some Let's Go Buff Pod. My name is Tom. That is Jake, and you're listening to the Let's Go Buffalo podcast. We're sending you love wherever you are. Go Bills, go Sabres. Let's go Buffalo.